So 90% of Sharia law is fully compatible, not only compatible, is consistent or compatible with American constitutional law and American laws. The areas of difference are small and minor.
Small and minor? That was Imam Faisal Abdul Rauf, proponent of the Ground Zero Mosque, a leading voice for moderate Muslims. No, really, that's what people say about him. Very odd, considering the U.S. Constitution says nothing about killing relatives who dishonor your family or binding women with acid when they make an independent decision about their own education or family life. And he's at it again, telling a Scottish crowd that the West needs to incorporate Sharia law into our legal systems to promote integration of Muslims into our society. That might fly with some bleeding heart liberals afraid of causing offense, I guess, but it sure doesn't sit well with me. The American Constitution, 95% of it, and Sharia law, same page.
Yeah, that man's either incredibly stupid or incredibly dishonest. I go for the liar myself. I mean, look, this is what really irritates me. I'm fine to have an open debate about Islam, about Sharia law, which in its pure form is meant to be justice. That's what it's about, justice. But they lie to people. It's the racism of lowered expectations. If someone who is Muslim, who is brown or black says something, we nod and, oh, that's very interesting. Sharia law, look, Two analyses here. Sharia law in concept, what does it say? Well, it believes in justice, but it does believe that those who are not Muslim do not have the same rights and height and depth and width under law as a Muslim. It does not treat women with equality. It certainly doesn't regard sexual minorities as having any rights at all. But in practice, Sharia law is far worse than this. You look at any country with Sharia law and ask what it's like to be, for example, a Christian, to be a part of a Muslim minority sect. For goodness sake, to be Jewish, well, that doesn't exist anymore because Jews have been thrown out of those countries. To be Baha'i, part of a group that doesn't include people of the book. It's a living hell. No one is lining up to get into Pakistan, for example. I mean, I don't see people on the Indian border saying, please, please, as a Hindu, as a Christian, as a woman, as a homosexual, I want to go and live in Pakistan because Sharia law is such fun. It is hideous, it's anti-human, and this man here should have been shouted at by people who have said to him, for hundreds of years in this country, in the United States, we have fought with our minds, with our hands, in every way to make this a fair, free, pluralistic nation. And what you want is to take it back to those days when we still had slavery. Because, by the way, ask any Muslim scholar if slavery is acceptable under Sharia law. And if they're honest, they will say to you, yes, it is.
All right, Michael, bending over backwards, as I always do to try to be fair, he didn't say it was 100% like the U.S. Constitution. He said it was only 95%.
Yeah.
Is it possible that all the stuff you're talking about, slavery and the oppression of women and everything else, is it possible that just fits in that little 5% compartment?
Well, it is possible, but it isn't the case. And of course, if it was the case, then why would he want any change to take place at all? If they were almost completely compatible, apart from 5%, then why bother to change anything in American or Canadian or British law? And I should add here that in Britain, the Archbishop of Canterbury, that ridiculous man, the Anglican leader, actually said that maybe some aspects of Sharia could be included in British law. So he can't have it both ways. If it's just like what they already have in the US, why change anything? If it's radically different, which it is, he should at least be honest about this. But we have to ask the question, and this really does have to be asked, even though it's uncomfortable to most people in the West. Is it permissible for a Muslim in the cause of Islam to tell a lie to a non-Muslim? I would like that question to be answered, because many of my friends in the Islamic world who are Christian, for example, Arab Christians, say, yes, it is.
Here's the question I have for you. How often, how frequently do we have to call this kind of thinking moderate? I mean, in no other faith group, no other philosophical or ideological group would this stuff be ever called moderate. So, I mean, I'm turning the word moderate on its ear, and I'm asking myself the question, do words still mean things, or do they not mean things if I'm in this bizarro world of political correctness when dealing with this particular issue? So you help me with that, Michael, if you could.
It's an extremely good point, because the term moderate is really not only used in terms of religion when it comes to Islam. Christians, of course, are all extreme unless they deny Christianity. But I think what people mean when they say moderate is He's not calling explicitly for people to be blown up. He's not saying that certain people should be decapitated. But even those who do, they're called militants and not terrorists now. There's nothing moderate about what this man has to say. You know, moderate is a fairly arbitrary term, but I suppose in North America we would think moderate is someone who accepted the body politic, democratic process, pluralism, accepted the victory of an opponent and said, I'll try to defeat them next time, but I accept their victory. Does Sharia law really believe that, for example, an atheist government is acceptable? Does Sharia law believe that there can be a non-Muslim leader of an Islamic country? Does Sharia law believe that a homosexual will be acceptable serving in the government? Because in Egypt, the so-called Arab Spring, which I think could actually be rather a nuclear winter, in Egypt, the Brotherhood, as well as the more extreme Muslims, are saying, no, we would not accept a leader of this country who was not.
Okay, Michael, I gather.